Yep.
I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Anything to change or add?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Allison.
Second.
Second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 3. Gosh, sorry guys. Approval of the minutes from the 4/14/25 meeting. Any questions, comments, changes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Also moved.
Motion by Josh. Second by Kayla. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Approval of the treasurer's report. That is on there for you to review. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Allison.
Second.
Second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Approval of the invoices. Anything you would like to call out, Mr. Murphy?
Nope, everything on there is pretty well normal business that we have every month. We do have our sped flow through on there, and then our Graduation Alliance monthly billable credits.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the invoices as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Allison.
Second.
Second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. The reconciliation and cash balances report.
I remember to load that up this time. They all reconcile the cash summary to the computer, to the bank, and to the treasurer's report.
Okay. Recognition of visitors.
Nobody signed it?
Perfect. Administrative reports.
Cash balances do match the reconciliation report. We did complete Kansas assessments. The second graders took an optional reading assessment. The 3rd through 6th assessments are new this year, so we won't see results on them until the fall. I think they're doing the cut scores this summer sometime. May 9th, I think it was last Friday, pre-K went to the Great Bend Zoo, pre-K 4, 4th went to Hayes for a field trip, and 5th grade, every year we go down to the Holyrood Depot, set up through Vern Shepman to get some historical stuff about the Holyrood and the train station, and also a neat experience for our kids. Today was play day and cookout. I'll take some kiddos out to eat tomorrow in Great Bend who earned 100 points. I need to add a few names there, so I'll added 3 more today. So Will Root, Dory Root, Tate McKenna, Otto Bogner, Heartland Zink, Tucker Worth, Whitley Simpson, Briella Willenberg, Henry Hall, and Allie Thrush. So I'll have to get another adult. That's a good problem to go with me. Never too hard to get somebody else to come out to eat with us. The 14th and 15th, I'll take kids down to the city park for an hour, 2nd through 6th grade, for achieving their reading award. May 15th, 1st grade to the Clockton Community Center and Holyrood Legion, and that'll be already pre-K 3 and pre-K 4's last day. The 16th, into the 4th 9 weeks. Check out next Monday, so we'll begin working on end of the year reports and working with Mrs. Sheedy for a smooth transition next year. So, any questions?
Thank you for everything, Jan.
Thank you.
We've had a lot of activities at the high school and junior high. Mildred Jansen, who wrote Surviving Hitler, came to speak with the students. All the students were able to either read her book or watch the documentary before she came and spoke. The kids came up afterwards and were really moved. It was kind of cool to see them interact with her, so that was really cool. Our KISA check-in was May 1st. We had sixth graders come and visit for orientation last week. This last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. We had lots of things for the teachers and are grateful to the Roughneck Reinforcers for helping us get those things for the teachers. Obviously, we had graduation yesterday, and all students that began the year with us graduated with us, so that was really cool. We didn't have anybody that either didn't pass anything or that left during the year as a senior, so that's really cool. For our athletics and activities, state forensics was last weekend, May 3rd, and all of our kids that went received a 1 or a 2 rating. It goes all the way to 4, so they did a really, really good job. State FFA was in Manhattan, May 4th through 6th. That's kind of an interesting competition because they actually compete 1A through 6A all together. So our kids, Courtney was very proud of the kids and how they performed at that state competition. Last week we had community cleanup, lots of community projects from community members. We had churches, the cities, and the school. We did projects all around. We had planned to do it on Wednesday, then it rained one day out of the month, and so we did that on Thursday morning. Last weekend was regional tennis, and all of our students made it to state tennis, which is this weekend in Topeka. We have 2 doubles teams and 2 singles that are competing at state. Our counselors report, we held a new event this year, Senior Signing Day on May 2nd. This event in conjunction with the Apply Kansas and the FAFSA night gives us a star, makes us be recognized as a star school. So we'll have a banner to hang up in the hallway for that. I think it's one of my, it is one of my favorite things that we do. It gives kids a chance to be celebrated in what they want to do, and it lets people know what their plans are, where they're going, and gives the families a chance to celebrate with their students. We held the FFA banquet on April 24th. NHS induction was April 28th, and the O Club Awards banquet was last week. I'm sorry, my pictures did not all come through. I had some pictures of cleanup day that'll get posted to the Facebook page, but do you guys have any questions?
I have a question. Can you tell me who the sponsor is for this? Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a nice Mother's Day. So on May 7th and 8th, Mr. Long went to Safe and Secure Schools Conference and got quite a bit of information from that, and I'll share some of those more details as we go for next year. On May 9th, the K2 went to the Cosmosphere trip, and they sent me the pictures, and I went to try to upload them, and then it kept airing out, so I'll have them for you next time. I'll share with you some of the pictures. Today we had the graduation walkthrough, and so we had all of our former Wilson students walk through, and of course our board meeting. The 5th and 6th graders tomorrow will be going on a field trip in Wilson and in Dorrance, and so they'll spend a little bit of time with the Wilson Heritage Museum, and then they'll travel over to Dorrance to the Historical Museum and the Bankery. And then on the 14th, we have quite a few kids that made AR this time, so their AR reward trip will be that day. The 5th and 6th graders will take a final trip together to go bowling. It'll also be our field day, and that'll be the last day for pre-K and preschool. On the 16th, we'll have the 6th grade promotion and student awards, and that'll be the last half day. And then I'll do the teacher checkouts between the 16th and the 23rd and the Memorial Day. Last week, I didn't put this on here, but last week we celebrated Teacher Appreciation. And I just have to give a shout out to all of our teachers. Nobody knows what they do every day. I'm going to highlight next year. We're going to do grade level by grade level and highlight that on our Facebook and some other places, just so that everybody can see the incredible things that those teachers do every single day. And they're doing it as troopers with no air conditioning or very minimal now. So that building gets a little warm. somebody said, "You're wearing a sweater today," and I have my reasons for wearing the sweater, but they were like, "Aren't you hot?" And I was like, "Well, kind of," but I know I walked in some of the classrooms today and it was rather warm. We have, in our after-school program, we have 24 students that are enrolled again, as we have all year. Our reading groups are still staying together, and then the math groups as they've been needed. Mr. Murphy's going to cover about the daycare report and some upsetting things that have happened with our daycare. I do want to just add to the report that he's going to give. I met with two of the ladies that were kind of the driving force behind the Wilson daycare and its opening today. And they had asked if it would be possible to put the ad that we have on the district website, if we could put it out on like the radio as an advertisement to see if we could get more, generate more interview, potentials. I've only had two, and one we would have gladly taken on. The other one, the team said they wasn't sure that would be someone that they would choose. So it's a difficult thing, and I don't know what we're going to do. And I told these ladies that same thing. I am going to put together an advisory council, which will help us oversee the daycare, and I'm hoping that will kind of help with some of the things that led up to this. And so we do have volunteers for that. And so I've asked them to that we meet as quickly as we can. So hopefully we'll have a meeting before the end of next week. The site council met. We talked about the calendar of events. And so I think we pretty much have the calendar as up to date as we can for now. And then I talked with them about the formation of the daycare advisory council. So hopefully we'll get all of that taken care of. On the class spotlight, I did want to share with you, Ms. Major and the third grade group shared that they reached their goal of a postcard from all 50 states. Plus, they got postcards from 14 different countries. I thought that was pretty cool. And so they got a total of 270 postcards. So I thought that was really nifty. In our enrollment, our numbers haven't changed. However, when we did our projected numbers, we thought we'd be around the 70-ish number frame. With what's going on with the daycare, I'm afraid that's going to drop us down closer to 60. So it's not a happy thing that's happening there. And so I'm hoping that with the advisory council and some different things that we can get that back up and running, because I'm losing some kids because parents are pulling their kids from, obviously from the daycare, so then they're going to take the kids to wherever's convenient for them. So we know of at least probably between close to 8 to 10 kids that are leaving us. So that didn't help us either. So it puts us but I know Mr. Murphy's going to talk about this a little bit more and share with you some of the other situation along with our library issue. So I did want to share with you, the staff and students wanted to share with you a copy of this year's lost my train of thought. Yearbook. Thank you. I got some many things. Did you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, the gym floor refinishing.
Okay, so we had the gentleman that usually does our gym floors, him and his family are not doing gym floors anymore, so we reached out to a company, Cane Courts in Montezuma, Kansas, and visited with them. They came out and looked, and this gentleman thought as long as we kept our high school getting refinished every year with at least a couple of coats on it, that we would get at least 2 to 3 more years out of our high school court before we had to sand it all the way down to bare bones and kind of start over. So we put his floor estimate for 2 coats, $3,900. We had to go ahead and try to get some dates locked in because he was pretty busy for the 7th and 8th is kind of what we're looking at this point. So my recommendation is for us to move forward with Cane Courts to refinish the high school, middle school gym floor to try to get the best amount of life out of it that we can get before we have to sand that thing back down to bare bones.
Any other questions about that?
Is that about the same ballpark that
It
it
is.
was cost comparable?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he would just do the one coat.
You would do the 2 coats. Yeah, his recommendation is the 2 coats to try to get it to where it's gonna maintain the life expectancy of at least a couple more years before we have to go down to the wood and start over.
Now, is he able to do that when we need to?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
He's scheduled right now in 7th and 8th, the 7th and 8th of August is whenever he's scheduled to come.
I mean,
So,
is he willing in 2, 3, 4 years?
he is, yeah.
Okay.
We went ahead and got an estimate on what he was gonna charge to go ahead and sand that thing all the way down.
Yeah.
We're talking, $10,000 to
And
get to that.
that also includes repaint. So that's where, I think it was $13,000 for him to sand all the way down, but that includes it to be repainted by a professional painter that he has, so.
Hopefully we get at least a couple more years out of it.
I would entertain a motion to approve the bid from King Quartz to refinish the gym floor.
So moved.
Motion by Allison,
I'll second.
second by Josh. Any further questions, comments?
So we'll put the 2 coats in.
How many years between are there? How many years between refinishing
When we have a court like we have at high school and the usage of it, we try to get it refinished every year
every
to
year?
try to get the most life out of it we can.
When was the last time that we took it down?
Oh, I don't
Do
know.
we
Probably
know?
consolidated,
Okay.
probably.
Some of our other less used gyms are on like an every other year at our high school gym.
Okay.
Okay, there was the motion and the second, so any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 10.
Okay, so you guys are aware that we do, as of right now, this year, we host our middle school volleyball, football, basketball, did I say volleyball? Volleyball games, yeah, at Bushton. So the contract reads that we're contracted for $6,500 and they take care of the gym, the locker room, the football field, the practice field, the markings on it, the track, the commons area, the concession. They provide janitorial service and maintenance and upkeep for that. It's been brought to my attention that whenever we kind of got to the point where we were negotiating contract and talking to them, that their understanding was that we were going to help pay for the gym floor to be refinished every 2 years on top of what we normally paid them for the $6,500 usage. So kind of a couple things here. We need to decide if we're going to keep using the Bushton facility for middle school and then also pay for the gym flooring to be refinished on the same every 2-year rotation if we're going to continue with their usage. I did take some pictures and have the gentleman at Kane Court shoot us a figure to not redo the whole floor, but to refinish the floor every 2 years. And it was $3,150 to be able to do that. So every 2 years, you're looking at, a little under $10,000 to be able to use that facility over there. So, I really feel like it's a good way to incorporate a community that does not have a school right now and still maintain their viability to some activities that are school related. I think that's really important if we can still be able to reach out and do that. So I would recommend us looking at that in depth to continue that with using that Bushton facility for those items.
So I went back and watched the minutes from that meeting that was Phil, and I was under the impression, just by watching the minutes, that part of the good thing about that deal was that it was all included and that we wouldn't have any additional costs for gym floors. That's what Mr. Lowry was talking about anyways. He said that would cover, more than be a good deal. So I guess my question is, where did that agreement come from?
I don't know if it was an agreement or if it was just talked between Superintendent Bushin.
So we do pay for, refinishing of the gym floors, at the rec also, every other year.
Well, except for, not for the next 5 years because of that agreement.
Yeah. But we're putting money towards that too. But before that, we paid to refinish those floors every
Right,
other year.
right. But we don't pay them any additional fee on top of that, do we?
I thought we did.
Well, I mean.
We don't, do we have a lease, like a monthly lease that we pay them, or I didn't think we did? We do the taxes, but that just flows through, we don't, pay them.
Oh, yeah, we do, we
Yeah,
pay, because we pay
we
for
have
half the
lease.
utilities,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, utilities and stuff, but you're not paying like $6,500 a year for the facility.
Well, we're not paying Bush any.
We're not paying
utilities.
Bushin monthly utilities.
Right, but we're paying them $6,500 a year,
Yep.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's,
And we pay for half the repairs on anything of the gym.
Here,
No, at the rec.
sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember.
Up to a certain.
Yes. I remember the roof had to get worked on and we
well,
had,
we pay
That was
for
part of that lease
the
agreement,
roof.
though. The whole roof, yeah, I read that.
Do we insure it or do the rec over there insure the bush team?
The city
City
insurance, the one.
City.
I think they
Carry
pass along
insurance.
some of that insurance, don't they, to us? Because I think it was just on the invoices now, there was a property and something insurance on there payable to the city of Claflin.
I think it's prorated.
Right, but we still are
I
paying.
think so. I'd have to look at the contract.
Are you talking about Claflin or Bushton?
Claflin.
Okay. So,
Yeah, so we don't pay a renting fee or anything, but we do pay, I mean,
Other expenses.
Yeah.
We cost share
Wonder what
expenses
that-
instead of a straight
What
lease.
all that for yearly, I wonder if they're comparable is what I'm getting at. I mean, I don't
Probably
know.
comparable.
I mean, I don't know without pulling the numbers.
I don't know exactly, but we pay
Well,
a fair
and-
amount.
Oh, I know.
and when you're talking about just the gym to gym, that's not included alcohol and stuff.
Right,
Expense
yeah.
on that too.
But again, that was part of the pitch was that it was all. included.
Since I'm new, I'm looking at the contract here, and it does say that the recreation will pay to maintenance. So to me, the floor is maintenance. So I agree with Kayla, it's saying here it's already taken in on this money. If you look at that agreement on one of the links. Now, I'm new,
Now-
but this is 2023 contract.
Yeah, are we not operating under a current one? Do we just not get a new one signed for this school year? I know we paid them, but I didn't know.
right, the one that's on there is the one we have on file
Okay, so-
that we discontinued with this year.
And it's pretty short, I mean, it's not really detailed, it's just pretty broad.
So whenever I visited with Tim a little bit about this, and I talked about the amount of work that goes into all of this, with Bushton, offering to do this at that rate, whether it's $6,500 a year or whether it's $10,000 a year if we did it, we're still really coming out in good shape because the amount of time and effort and everything that we would have to put into doing these same things at our facility here, I mean, we're seeing that time being used for other things and other purposes as well. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I would guess that if we did these same things here to this facility and we had, the maintenance, the paint, the chalk, the upkeep for our custodians and those sorts of things, yeah, we're going to be looking at the same amount or more probably.
Yeah, and that was the pitch back then,
Yeah.
and kind of why it was such a good deal, is because we wouldn't have to do all those things. So I'm just curious now if it's still a good deal. If it, if we're going from 6.
And again, that would be every other year. That'd be every other year.
Right.
So we'd have 6,500 one year and then estimate,
So then
depending
they
on
would
our
lock
price
us into
point.
that lease for 2 years instead of a year.
Right.
Which I mean, that's.
So I just wanted to make sure that we're all on board with moving forward, because last year, this was on the June meeting, correct? I think it was on the June meeting when you guys okayed the next lease for the lease or the contract for Bushton. I didn't want us to move forward with the gym floors, we're gonna have to get that guy booked. He said he can come out the same time he's doing this one, but he's getting really booked at this point. So the first thing is the contract, and the second thing is if we're gonna move forward with the contract under the understanding that, 1 year it'll be $6,500 and the next year it'll be that plus redoing the gym floor.
And I don't have a problem with doing it, I just want to make sure it's still worth the investment that we're putting into it. Because that was the whole pitch, that it was such a great deal and everything. I just want to make sure it's still a great deal, even though we're adding it to it.
I think that is a good investment to make in that, especially since we're the ones having all of the extra activities there. I mean, we're the ones who put the majority of the wear and tear on the gym floor, so I feel like it's fair to
But that was
ask
part of
us
the pitch,
to.
though. That was the pitch why we should do it, or, they were going to do it. So, I mean, I understand that we should, and I think that's $6,500 for some of that. And I have no problem doing the additional, I just want to make sure it's still within, our benefit to do it. And I don't know without looking at numbers.
I think it still would. I mean, you're looking under 10 grand.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you add that much more to this gym floor that we already got, plus the football field, plus trying to arrange everything else. I still think that we're well below what it's worth.
I'm not saying not to do the least. I mean, I.
No, I'm just saying,
that, yeah.
I think even 10 grand is well worth it.
I don't know about any number.
I don't have a problem, but my problem is the contract is so ambiguous, it doesn't explain that we're gonna maintain the floor, it just says maintenance. So could we have a work, that's.
So the contract, if you guys okayed it, would look exactly like it looks now, but it also would include every 2 years of a rotation of us completing the gym floor refinishing. That'd be the only thing that would be added to that contract at this point.
And we know for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when we refinish the floor here at the Claflin rec, we pay the full amount. It's not a
No,
shared cost.
we looked back, are you talking about the Claflin rec,
The
right?
rec.
The rec, so whenever we pulled the May 13th board minutes from last year, I believe they're refinishing that floor as we speak right now. And the board made a motion to pay a third of the cost of the project depending on the decision.
That was to take it all the way down.
Yeah.
But when we just do a normal refinishing, we pay the full amount,
I think so.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that was the.
Let me just refinish it.
Right.
This is an
This
exception.
is
This is
correct,
taking it
yes.
all the way
This is
down.
an
Yeah.
exception.
I think it's in that lease agreement that the school is responsible for it on a reasonable basis.
Yes.
So it was written into the agreement.
Hearing no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the contract with the city of Bushton for the 25-26 school year with the addition of refinishing the basketball court.
Can we stipulate within that motion that it would be refinishing every other year?
Yes.
I would make that motion.
There is a motion by Allison
Second.
and a second by Chad. Any further questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
Motion passes 6-0-1. Item number 11, the air clearance testing.
Okay, so we've been working with John Fox. He's the director at ACM. That's the company that's coming to do the mitigation at the high school, middle school this summer. We do have to hire air clearance company. He gave us a couple of names for the air clearance companies that they've worked with. We do need to get this locked in so we have some dates finalized when they will come out. We'll have to have an air test done after the tiles are taken up in the entryway, and then we'll have to have one done once they get the first half of the ceiling tiles out, and then we'll have to have another one done when they get the second half of the ceiling tiles out. So the two air quality companies are American Metropolitan Environmental and then Paradigm. The bids are attached. Both of them are very comparable, talking to both of them on what their services that they have to do. and give us the paperwork back to make sure it's safe to be in the buildings with those 3 different tests. Paradigm came in quite a bit cheaper. You're looking at about $3,200 for Paradigm to come in and do theirs, as opposed to
72.
$7,280 from American Metropolitan Environmental. So
Those are apples to apples.
they're apples to apples with the same clearance test for each one that they have to have done.
So the Paradigm, the 2,500 is for both of the air clearances, not 2,500 times 2.
Right.
Okay.
So my recommendation, comparing the two, is to move forward with Paradigm and get them locked in for the air clearance test for the asbestos abatement at the high school, middle school.
I would move to approve Paradigm.
Okay, motion by Allison,
Second.
second by Josh. Any further questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. The concrete pad at Central Plains Elementary.
Okay, so we're talking about the concrete pad out behind where when we toured, we had the drainage situation out there that we have. Central Plains Elementary School has about $15,000 in contributions, right, Ms. Ozier?
Yes, from both the
Okay. So it's our estimate that we'd have to put around $11,000 from our capital outlay around that number with the $15,000 that they have raised to complete this project this summer. So we did get 2 bids in. One was from Sharkey Construction and one was from Scott Christensen. So pulling those up. Sharkey Construction with their, they did give us the option of pouring the 10 by 40 concrete pad in between both of them for $3,000, but comparing apples to apples, we're at about $26,500 for Sharkey Construction. And then for Scott Christian's Construction, we were at $25,600. So pretty comparable on both prices for both jobs. It's my understanding that Sharkey did the concrete at Holyrood, is that right? Like the parking lot?
No, that was Suki.
Okay,
Suki Construction did the project.
the parking lot at Holyrood?
Suki Construction?
Or was it Susan?
Okay.
Well, Suki and Sharkey,
They did it
they
together.
used to work together, now it's just Shark.
Right. But back then it was Suki.
Yeah,
Both of these companies are really, really busy this summer, but both of them said that they could squeeze the project in. They said, estimate about a week to get it done.
So when they did the previous stuff at the elementary school, everything went well, they weren't delayed?
well, that's been a while.
That
That's a
long time
parking
ago.
lot, wasn't it? That was the parking lot, wasn't it? Yeah, that's been a while. That was before.
I didn't know if you had a personal.
Well, it looks good.
Both of them come highly recommended from anybody that I've talked to. So,
Do you recommend adding the in-between thing?
at that estimated $10,000, I mean, we talked about, the ability down the line to maybe add it. We also talked about, Ms. Ozier talked about doing some landscaping in between maybe to try to prevent some of that drainage.
We have to,
Would you prefer it
I'm trying
concrete?
to get it where they can get across from one spot to the other without traipsing through mud, but we could come up with, you could do pavers or something that you could put in between there. If we don't do concrete.
Do you have a preference between concrete and something different? Would you rather it be solid?
Does Scott know anything about that in between?
No, we didn't talk to him. I don't think, Jane, we didn't visit with Scott about putting that.
Because this other guy, he mentioned it, the other one, he
Yeah.
mentioned it, and I forgot.
Their other bids are so close together anyways.
it would probably be comparable, I would guess.
I think if we're gonna do it, we should do it all at once. And then the concrete.
We just wanna go ahead and move forward with Sharkey since we have that bid.
certain.
Scott gonna do the modular building?
So Scott right now gave us a quote for the modular, and I'll talk a little bit more of that in my superintendent's, but we're probably gonna have to bid that out as well. I mean, it's gonna be over $50,000. So that would be something that'd have to be bid out as well, once we get to that point.
They're wanting for this summer? And
Yeah.
Have we got a bid on the other?
The concrete work from Scott, yeah.
Is he the only one?
That's the only one we've got so far, yeah.
Okay.
you bid it out to Sharkey?
Not yet.
I will motion to approve the bid from Sharkey for the concrete at the Hollywood grade school with the in-between both courts, I don't know, needs to be worded, for a total of $29,500.
Okay. Second. There's a motion by Kayla and a second by Allison. Is there further discussion? Do you have any other thoughts, Dalton, about Scott?
No, I don't. I feel like they're both gonna be really comparable, and we're gonna have some other concrete jobs coming up here pretty quick too, that we'll have multiple bids from, maybe.
You don't wanna ask Scott though, what it would cost to do that in between? Or you wanna just move forward now?
Well, if we don't get this situated at this time, I'm worried that we might not get it in this summer, if we wait till the June board meeting.
So a different option would be to approve like a certain dollar amount to be spent.
Scott doesn't go over 28.5 or 28.6. That, I mean, that'd be the only option that we have.
Right.
You know,
Well, it would be nice if Scott knew because he wasn't told about it, you know, when it was a bid because for something he didn't know about. Right.
So there is a motion and a second.
I didn't get a
So-
second.
It was by Allison. So if you wanted to, it would have to be an amendment to the motion.
The original one was to include the in-between concrete.
Right.
Okay.
But accepting it from a specific contractor.
It was by Sharkey.
Yeah, I got that.
So an amendment could be to just have the dollar amount and not have the specific contractor to give Scott an option.
I agree, 'cause Scott's more local, he does a lot more work. I've used Sharkey too for our shop, and he does great work too, but Scott's always, here. So I don't know. I don't know how you word it.
the Sharkey out agreement.
I think Otis for Cross.
All right.
Okay, so would you want to amend the motion to strike the certain contractor? In order to,
I mean, if Scott doesn't want to do it, or if it's more,
Right.
I mean, we need to move forward. But
Yeah.
It'd be nice if you get a call on him and see if, hey, would you do this for, what would it cost to do that? And if he says no, or whatever, we just call
do
Sharkey.
you want to make a motion for that amendment?
How do I word it for me?
You do? Okay. Okay, so there is a motion for an amendment to the motion. So now I need
To delete the contractor's
to delete
name.
the contractor's name
Do
in
you-
order to allow Mr. Murphy a chance to speak with Scott
Okay, so do you want to
Christian.
put a dollar figure in this new motion? Or no?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Well, if he's doing
within $500.
So to
Just
allow,
leave it.
allow both contractors to bid specifics, and we're gonna go with the lowest bid.
Yes.
As long as they can fit it in. Yeah.
We're 26.5
With the lowest bid.
Okay, so there is an amendment to the motion. Is there a second on the
Do you
amendment?
want it to say, I'm sorry, do you
No,
want it
you're
to say
fine.
to include the extra concrete in it?
Yes.
That's what we're doing
That's
here.
what,
I think they should
because
do it all at
Scott
once
didn't
and
have
one
that.
down.
Right, 'cause he wasn't
There.
right.
So
So it's just
basically-
to give Scott the chance to
Give the
bid
chance, and
it,
if he comes in lower than that number, that's who
They
we'll
go
go
with
with. If
Scott.
he comes in higher, we'll go with the other.
provided they can both get it in the summer.
Okay.
I'll say.
We'll visit
Okay.
this motion too.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, there is a second to the amendment, Josh. So
Dalton.
Dalton made the amendment, and then Josh seconded that.
All right.
So at this time, all we're voting on is the amendment to the motion.
previous motion.
Yes. So, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. The amendment passes 7-0. Now, the amended motion is for the complete concrete project, including the go-between pad, within 29,500 to be completed this summer. So, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, so I'll need you to say that.
Okay. So the new motion was for the entire concrete project, including the pad between courts, to be completed this summer for 29,500 or less.
Okay. $29,500?
Yes.
Okay. That was, who made that motion?
That motion, so the motion was by Kayla.
I got Kayla's first.
Yes. So then the amendment, which was that new
Dalton and
motion, was
Josh.
Dalton and Josh.
So then this new one.
That is that's,
Oh, this isn't another motion?
no, that's basically Kayla's motion after it was
With
amended.
amended.
So that's
Oh.
what the amendment
Kayla
is.
still, made the
Gotcha.
motion.
Kayla and
Allison.
So in essence, that was Dalton's amendment.
Gotcha.
Okay. Are we good?
Yes.
Item number 13, the high school, middle school track complex.
Great.
I don't think everything in the handout got it in the order that it's, I saved you the time for all the slides that are up here, but. I'll just start off, my name's Justin Robinson, I've been teaching here since 2007, I started at Aurora Heights. Through the 2011 through consolidation, wood shop teacher out here also. I did 4 years coaching at Aurora Heights. First 2 years, I was assistant football, assistant track. And then after Jeff Savage left, I took over the head track over there. And since we've consolidated, I've been the head track coach here. And this is my 18th year coaching and teaching here in this district. So just kind of giving you a little background here where I'm at. I'm not the longest tenured guy here, but I'm getting old. I'm getting close to the top, unfortunately. I just wanted to kind of bring some awareness about the track facility and the kind of condition that we deal with on a daily basis. You guys already kind of talked about some of this tonight, but the school pays the money to refinish the floors yearly. And I have occasionally on there, I wasn't on the logistics of what all it was every other year and stuff like that over here at Bushton or at the Clapton at the rec center, but you guys kind of clarified on that today. We got updated here last year, got the air conditioning. It's a great thing that Mr. Lowry got for us. Tennis courts were refinished back in 2014, and here just last year, we got a new sprinkler system in there, and as all you guys know with yards, fertilizing and overseeding is always a constant expense. And my question I have is what's been done with the track? So I'm gonna get into some pictures and stuff, and more descriptions here. While we do have a nicer dirt track, I mean, we made catch at Kansas last year for Pat Styles Dirt Track Classic, as I call it. Hosting and that meet, you know, we have minor improvements have been made to that. Back when they did I had to bother Diane a lot with a lot of my years and statistics here. They did do some work on the high jump runway out there, or pits, in about 2013 when they redid the parking lot. Since then, it hasn't been touched, and I got some pictures on here between the cracks and the chunks falling off out there that we try to practice on daily. I hit the wrong button. Occasionally, I think since I've been here, since 2011 and 12, we have purchased maybe 2 rollout mats for the kids on long and triple jump. We got a concrete surface out there, and they got a rollout mat that we use. If we want lines, I paint the lines on the distances. Once you get water out there, it's really nice to watch the kids try to keep their traction as the mat's moving when they're triple jumping and long jumping. It's not a very safe surface. Approximately 2015, we had an extra discus ring sitting over in the trees down by the practice field, and I said, why aren't we using that? So myself, with the help of a local business guy, brought his forklift in and we picked it up. We moved the discus rings to where they're at now. I had a construction kid come out and help me pour the concrete, and we put down the rings that are on there ourselves. And a parent came in and had a portable generator. He made all the repairs on it. So again, I had people doing a lot of stuff. I have put these 2 new boards on here, just wood boards, but I know they got a lot better stuff out there. You can buy the kick boards. They're not real cheap, but we do have the boards out there on the rings. I replaced those. With any minimal rainfall, the track holds water, and I'm going to have a lot of pictures of that here. The track has to be drugged repeatedly a lot to keep the footprints out. If you went down there right now, there's probably 3-inch deep footprints in there from the rain last week when they had the powder puff football and all the kids went across the track to go out there and play powder puff. When I say bicycle tracks, those are the easy ones. It's when literally we have people sometimes go down there and drive around the track with their vehicle, and I'm trying to drag those out of the track. If it has rained, the teams can't practice outside. And I say teams, it's middle school and high school. We can't just clean it off. It's kind of not a good deal. And when we're forced to practice inside, you're taking approximately 60 athletes and putting them in a gym in the hallways and saying you're going to practice long jump, you're going to practice triple jump, high jump, shot put, discus, javelin, try to do hurdle work, all inside a really tight facility. I mean, you can only do so much pounding on concrete halls before they start getting shin splints on top of it. So it really restricts what drills you can do, the workouts you can do. We've done it a couple of times this year where I'll have 2 hurdles set up on one side. I got the high jump mat set over there for kids to jump off a springboard into high jump mats to working. And then the kids are waiting for high jump for us to get done with that, so then we can put in some standards and they can practice high jump. Practice takes a really long time, and then you're trying to get middle school kids worked into that as well. We all know how 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds attention spans. It's fun herding them all around. So this is some pictures on Thursday this year, April 24th. Went down there, we had about 1/2 inch to 60/100 of rain. Thanks to what it recorded here in town. And this is looking at the inside 2 lanes. And this is another issue. I got this on here as well. Since they put in this retaining wall with the new bleachers, and I'll get to another picture here, all the water from the concession stand up to the weight room runs down onto the track. And this part right here washes out. And this actually I took this day. This came from the engineering company for the track company. This was a 1/2 inch rain when this came in. And all this heavy rock, which I think Chad might have brought his bobcat in before to try to clean that up for Tim, washes out onto the track. Pat had his track meet last week, and he has to go out there and shovel all that rock off the track and get it on the outside, and there's nothing holding that rock off coming off of the track. So here's some more pictures. You can see the water all the way around the track. So from that building up here, even where we're standing, and I got another aerial, all that water, the slope runs that water down. All the water up here runs down, and this is usually a nice lagoon. And the track's footprints usually come all the way around most of that curve. There are drains that I'll show you on here too for this water, but it's like right here. You can see the grass has washed, just a half-inch of rain is washing all that water down onto the track. Yeah, this was that morning, and just another kind of a shot so you can see how much water that's down there. So we don't usually get to practice outside unless we go on the streets, the asphalt, if it's like this. He just had a lot of pictures here for you guys to kind of see that he took for his specs. And Scott, I got on here on the last sheet in here, there was a request for a bid to bring that retaining wall out further to the north and kick it back at a 45. This 45 comes towards the football field and it funnels that water to the football field. So he's got a bid in there to extend that retaining wall out and kick that 45 back towards the parking lot, backfill with a drain tile and rock and put a drain, which I don't know if I'm going to have. It's not going to be, I've just got more water pictures here. I went too far back that way. So this drain right here is on the west side, inside of the track. It would be the one right here. He would have a concrete sidewalk basically from that retaining wall so that that water would come out of that drainage and flow down into this drain here to get it away from there. And he was going to do a curb over the top so that if water got too drastic of a rainfall and that tube couldn't keep up, it would overflow the top of that down onto that sidewalk again to try and keep rocks and dirt from things washing down on the track. So that bit is added on there as far as he just gave us a quote as something to fix that, to try and help it. If anybody's had concrete work, you know flat work is a lot easier than a retaining wall and things that are going to hold stress. So there's a lot more engineering goes into that part of it. Did you need anything else on that?
I wanted to add something. Can you go back to your picture of that light pole with the water on it? So this light pole, just so you guys can remember, all of our light poles are like this. That light pole this past year during football season, I went out with Tim and we were looking through those lights. Those light poles holding the lights up are 2 U-bolts. There's one at the top and one at the bottom. That pole right there only had 1 U-bolt at the top. There was no U-bolt in the bottom. And we had them come out and replace those U-bolts in there too. So just, I know you guys have talked about those light poles at some point, but that's going to be something else that we're going to have to cross sooner rather than later from a safety standpoint on the light poles. So
Yeah, I got a few more pictures on here on the light poles. So this is, again, just showing you kind of the footprints and things that, like again, that was a half-inch of rain in that morning and we weren't able to practice outside that afternoon because it was still too muddy to practice. This is the west side, and there's also drainage over there. And this is by the long jump pit, the north one, where all the cinder washes off the track down into the gutter, and we're losing cinder all the time over there on that corner. The south curve is, we'll get to that with the high jump, it's holding so much water that there's not much cinder. It took me, I probably drug it for 2 hours that Friday before past track meet, trying to drag cinder back over into that side of the track because it was just hard packed dirt. So here is a kind of a further away of the high jump pit where the high jump pits are holding water, and the asphalt that we're using. And I got more pictures in here with the cracks that are in it. And we're using 2 pits so that we can have, if you've been high jumping, you know, if you got a right-handed jumper over here, then your left side jumper, he's waiting or she's waiting for this kid to get done. So 7th and 8th grade having their track meets here, it takes a while to get through high jump and practice when you're using the middle school, high school. So I did have some stuff here on the light poles. You can see how not straight they are and leaning, and the west side, they've been here as long as I've been in the building and before. Most of you guys from around here probably have seen them. And On the south end, we have poles in the ground bolted to the pole to help support it. Which to me, I just don't, I think it'd be easier to replace them and the chunks falling off of the poles all of the time. So this is just kind of to give you an idea. I made Diane go through and dig this up for me too. In 2012, they had replaced the light poles at Wilson. So this is kind of just rough figures back in 2012, what it cost for an idea to replace the poles. And that would go from what we have as 8 poles to 4 poles. And then you'd be switching to go into LED, which is a lot more efficient. I've reached out to local, Ben Kermer works for Midwest Energy, and he had, at one time he had some offers from Midwest Energy where they were going to donate, I believe it was the time to come in and do the poles, and his dad was going to work out a deal on the LED lights to sell them at cost, and he was going to donate some time to put them up, but nothing has moved forward with that. So like he said with the U-bolts and stuff, I just feel like something near future needs to be addressed in that aspect of that. I just had a picture of that visitor bleachers. I don't have our little portable one out there. I don't know, but just kind of showing the facility. We got really small bleachers over here. As a football coach, I'm not kind of jumping off here. It's kind of embarrassing when your visitor fans come over there. They're sitting in lawn chairs on your long jump runway and the side of your track because there's nowhere else for them to sit. So here's the aerial view from Google Earth of the high jump runway, and it's not real clear, but you can see the black lines showing the cracks from Google Earth. Currently, this is what we use, the layout for our high jumps, so that we have 2 mats with the high school and middle school both there. And here it is when it's all set up from a different angle. So here's the current condition. I just kind of started with the smaller cracks and worked my way up. And you can't really see the chunks that are falling off in the pictures. If you've ever ran on asphalt and tried to run on asphalt with spikes, you're not going to get any traction. So it's really hard for a kid to practice high jump in spikes when they can't practice in spikes versus jumping in spikes. It's just not safe for them to do that. I have made, again, I didn't buy them, I made some boxes, and I made a ramp box because they're really expensive with rubber on it, where if we're going to jump, it's 8 inch tall. We raise the bar up 8 inches and we run and we jump off that ramped box so that we can actually jump on something that's not going to hopefully slide and the kid's not going to fall and slip. So the large cracks, and it's undersized for the 2 pits. So here's just some more pictures that I get into. And you can start to see the cracks. Some of them are big enough that my fingers fit in them. Some of them my hand fits inside the cracks. So what I proposed was, like a lot of tracks, is going all the way across with this being rubberized. When Tim engineered the guy last year that did the sprinkler system, he had already communicated with them as far as disconnecting the sprinkler lines here, if this would ever happen, so that it was planned out in the future as far as cost and saving money and the aspects of the sprinkler systems that were already there. So what we use our long jump runways for, considering that we only have this for a rubber surface and a dirt track. This is the north pit, which we use long and triple jump here, which when you do that, I already talked about that. I apologize. So 7 through 12 long and triple jump, you're going to average between 10 to 20 kids trying to do long and triple jump there at the same time, waiting and rotating. So you've got all the kids doing that plus other events and things that they've got to do that day, which makes practice take longer, 3 to 4 times longer. You can't get through it. My hurlers and sprinters don't have a runway or a good surface. So we go down to the south pit, and the old wooden board that's in here, we use as our starting line, and we set up hurdles going out. I got to have it taped down there marked for the girls' hurdle distances and the boys' hurdle distances, and then I got all the other 15, 20 kids that just do blocks. So they're going to set the blocks for them, and it's a rotation with the 6 set of blocks that we got, where the girl will go run the hurdles, and then they got to move the hurdles so the boy can get in his blocks and he can go run hurdles. And then you're taking them all on and off, and each kid setting blocks to run sprints. So again, you're running 7th to 12th grade hurdlers. Your sprinters are constantly changing blocks. You're not getting a whole lot of work done as fast as you could be getting stuff done. Is kind of everything I already talked about. Again, you're looking at another 10 to 20 kids because you got a lot of kids that just run and don't do field events. So they're always there needing to do block work too. We do have lots of sets of blocks, but we got about 5 or 6 that we can use on the runway because with our cinder track, they got these big spikes that you drive down into the dirt, and they've been fixed and repaired so many times they got a nut welded on them so the bolt doesn't come out, but the anchor, the pin sticks out so far you can't use them on the runway because they won't go down flat. So we're limited in what we can use there as well. Again, it lengthens the time of practice. This is just a quick shot here of the shot put rings again. I don't think a whole lot of work would have to be done with those. What I would like to see done is, like most places, instead of throwing into dirt, we can come in here, and I would be willing, and have talked to some other people willing to bring in a bobcat or excavator of sorts to dig this out and rock this and put in a concrete curb and backstop, so that it's an actual shot put rings. I would like to see an addition of a javelin runway when you get into regionals and state. We've had a lot of kids over the past several years that have been good javelin throwers, and we have to go over to Hoisington and throw off of their track into their grass because they don't have a javelin runway either. So when you get regionals in state, we don't have a place to practice ourselves to do this. What I've seen more water set down in here and kids trying to hydroplane than it being used for ball field anymore, was kind of to fill that in and tear that out again. Lots of people have volunteered to come in and help get that stuff out of there so that we can build in a javelin runway. This is kind of what you kind of got some pictures of there. I stole this image here and this one here. Lauren had got a new track 2 years ago. McPherson, I've talked to them and I've got roughly what they had spent on theirs, but their prices are a lot different, where we'd be starting from the ground up versus theirs is a resurfacing, and they all did a lot of parking lot work and a lot of other things that I'm not looking into. But so phase 1, I would like to be able to see the field events moved, take the long jump pit that's in the middle of the football field out of there. Kind of some reasoning there too. We know our numbers are kind of high. As a football coach, we're flirting with the possibility of 11-man. And I know that they've had it in there before, but a lot of facilities are just taking the pits out of the inside of the football field. If you're hosting a track meet, it gets all the parents extra out of the inside the fence and off of the football field and out of the track area. So be able to move. We don't currently have anything for pole vault. It'd be nice to be able to add that for the kids and the opportunity. I felt like that moving all this down here next to the practice field, having the trees there as a windbreak would help with pole vault, because you don't pole vault into wind. That's kind of a suicide thing. And the long jump pits either, both directions. We currently have the discus rings down here that I moved. And then again, updating the shot put rings, just kind of doing the gravel and the curbs and things to that. One option I threw out there, Tesket's done it, and somebody told me, I can't remember what the other school had done this. I asked Pat, I said, Pat, why is this runway so long? He goes, well, we used to run a straight 220. So this runway coming all the way out of the end of here is super long. And I've seen some schools where they would add pits onto the end. So if you had done a new track, they would add pits on the end of this runway so you could mark your lines, and they would actually utilize that space so you'd have pits there on the end of the track. It just kind of saves space and gives you more areas to work with. Just kind of throwing that out as another idea. So this again is that image. This is from the track company's drone. He gave me that image, and then I kind of photo opped in the other different things, kind of give you an idea what the track and football field up here would look like without the pits inside. Just kind of letting that be visible. So what I'm calling phase 1, which makes things a little bit more affordable and over the longevity and time, is improving the shot put rings, the discus rings, an addition of a javelin runway, and moving those long and triple jump pits to the south, and possibly adding the pole vault pit. All weather surface added to the runways, and the company that bid us out would come in and do just the rubber surfaces on those, the runways and things like that. It's kind of in a few years they come back and do the whole track type of a thing. Phase 2 would be tearing out the old track, replacing the asphalt base, and then updating the high jump runway. Unfortunately, we can't do a whole lot with the high jump until you do something with the track, because And he says that's kind of, I mean, when you're doing the asphalt and the concrete work, that all kind of goes together with that. And I do have Scott Christians that bid me out on the concrete. There was a little miscommunication from this guy on what he sent him, and the runways don't match up with what he bid me. But the guy from Mac there, he had bid out just doing them turnkey, start to finish, dirt work, runways and everything. But that's his bid on there. Scott's.
Can you go back to that slide, Coach, real fast?
Yep.
So just talking about phase one, all-in cost, is that the $198,000?
That's $198,000 from the company, that's the, what is it?
The track, yeah.
The track company, they're out of Kansas City. They're the company that did Hoisington's track here last year.
So it would be that plus the cost of the concrete, right?
No, that's, their bid of the 198 is all of it. The
All
first
of it.
number on there, which I'll get there in a minute, his concrete work is $124,000. And then he's got $15,000 on there putting in the pole vault, the fiberglass pole vault addition things, and then, which I'm kind of curious where $15,000 and all that's coming from. But then just rubberizing those field events was the $57,000.
Okay.
So Scott's bid is on there on another page. Would have to be revamped a little bit with the different, getting those, I sent him that today. I knew he wasn't gonna have time. I just got this from the track company this morning.
So you're looking all in phase one to be around $200,000?
If this company was to do everything, yes. I think with Scott's bid at the 31,000 roughly, and getting, I had somebody that's talked to Abe Prosser, but he's broke his arm and he's kind of laid up right now, to come in and give us some dirt work ideas. Even if he was at $20,000 in dirt work and $57,000 for them to come in and rubberize it, I think you're saving about $90,000 getting some stuff done locally versus that company doing it.
Would they be willing to come and just do the surfacing?
Yep. That's
Okay, so
the
he's willing.
$57,000
Right.
that they would just come in and do the surfacing, and we could get local people to do the concrete, the dirt work to their specs. And like Scott said, he goes, his specs said gravel for filling in on the concrete work versus sand, and using fiberglass rebar versus steel. And he's like, I'll bid you what his specs are, but if I'm gonna do it my way, it's gonna be sand and it's gonna be steel rebar and it's gonna be cheaper than what he's trying to bid you out at. So he's gonna save you money on that aspect too. So just some community and school benefits. This is outside of just what I'm talking to high school. But the city of Claflin, a new track would allow the community members to utilize that facility. Rehabilitation, better surfaces for physical therapy, strengthening, mobility purposes. And it's a much better surface than concrete or asphalt. I mean, I live on the city block. That's the street track, I guess you could say, in town. The multiple people that walk through and around town. Diane walks by my house all the time. Hosting the middle school track meet. We were down to 4 teams this year, and it gets the declining numbers where you have a year where it's rained out, they got to postpone it, and they decide, well, we're just not going to come back because of that possibility. And then you get to that late in the year, and it's hard for them to find meets. Like this week, we have the CPL, the league track meet, and we're going to St. John, and it's come down to the schools with a track facility are the ones that host that now. They start the middle school in the morning, and then when that one's done, they have a little short break, and then they start the high school. So you'd host middle school through high school all day. We've had it at lacrosse, Kinsley, I believe, last year, St. John this year. And previously, when we had hosted it, we would host it at Ellenwood. We'd have to use their place, or we'd host it at Hoisington. We'd have to use their place. So the league kind of came up with a rotation of the schools that have a facility. When I first got here, we hosted a triangular dirt track meet with Chase and Wilson, and I felt like it was a bad date. It was the week before CPO, which is the same time as when they had the middle school meet that same week, and really didn't want my kids running on dirt the week before going to the CPO meet, regionals and state. I'd like to see if we're going to continue doing it early in the year, not that late in the year. So again, availability to be hosting a meet. And I've had a lot of community members that were track people really stressing and wanting to be able to host a regional. And that comes into with that track, trying to get 7 lanes out here with the way the bleachers got set out there is going to be tough. They'd have to shift some stuff to the west to be able to get 7 lanes. We would maybe be able to do 8 straightaways on the west side, but without moving the fence and the poles back, you're stuck with what you have, but we could get 7 that way. He said maybe 8 straightaway if we move the straightaway onto the other side. But he hasn't got all of that back to me. He's waiting on his AutoCAD engineer to give me the full layout drawing. But we'd be able to host regionals, which is a huge draw to bringing in schools here too. I want to touch on too on the hosting with the youth track meet. Those numbers have grown, and I've got a lot of those numbers here and some pictures in my spreadsheet when I get to that, and bringing in some revenue for that rec set for the rec also. Average entry fees for those rec track meets is like $10 to $20, and I've been down to Halstead where they've had over 500 kids at $20 a piece. That's a big boost for the community and for the rec. So other things is speaking with the rec center, being able to utilize a new track for Memorial Weekend, a 5K, 10K, other activities. Saturday when we just went to Plainville here 2 days ago, I called them this morning. They had 334 kids at $20 a head. And I said, what kind of deal do you have worked out with the high school? She says, that is our only fundraiser for the rec. They let us use that money for everything that we use to support our rec sports. And if it comes down to expenses for some things, if they have to do something, they contact us and we try to help kick back a little bit what we can to help with their facility. I come from a big 3A school where we had a Relay for Life walk every year on the track. Those are always nice for the communities and to bring people around too. Some elementary teachers have talked to me about having a school play day. When I was in school, we had a little 5th and 6th grade track meet, and it was just the kids signed up to do multiple meets or multiple events. They came down, had little ribbons to hand them out, and just get the kids out there burning off a bunch of energy, and it was just a great activity. I loved it when I was a little kid too. But just something to just kind of make it into sack lunches, a picnic lunch or something. We did that too when we had ours. And then additions, there's been asked if you could get something moving, we'd be able to get a walking trail around the whole place. Not only the community members could walk on that track, but they could also walk the trail around the whole area. So this is just some benefits that I've kind of summarized. You've got a sheet on there. On the last page, I think it was I reached out to somebody and got some information. It said just cushions the impact on the runner's feet and legs, saving on the knees, more explosive power, reducing fatigue. They can go longer in practice. I've dealt with a lot of shin splints in the past 10 years on the dirt track. When you got unevenness, you also get rolled ankles where things are big rocks. I think we had a kid over at Bushton before they started coming over here that stepped on a rock and broke his leg. And then they started coming over here to practice. Some dirt drawbacks to the dirt track. It's uneven, bumpy. Spring's usually the wettest season, and we're trying to practice out there in mud most of the time when we actually do get some rain. It's not really an all-weather surface to practice on. And again, just to touch back on the frequent dragging, leveling, and maintaining the low spots. If you haven't come down here the week before Pat has his track meet, you should really come out and see. Pat's not getting any younger, and he's out there with the scraper, scraping all the dirt and the sand and the gravel off of that curb all the way around that track. And then he's got a leaf blower trying to blow it off just to clean it up so he can get to his line so they know where to start everything for their races and the hurdles. It's a lot of work for him. So I just wanted to throw in some participation numbers to kind of give food for thought on the amount of kids that I'm talking that it impacts. This took a lot of research too, and I had to bother Sherry up at Wilson to get me some numbers because when Bushton was, I had to get these numbers after because when it was, what was that, 5'8"? Right, Jay, 5'8"? Bushton used to be 5'8". Yes. I had to get numbers split so I could get just the 7th and 8th grade. So since Central Plain, the high schools average 32% of the kids out for track, and the middle schools average 73%. The youth track program got started in 2015. In the past 5 years, you can see that it's really blown up. They average about 45 kids since the beginning of Central Plains. Started that program in 2015, and those 11 years. So we're averaging 105 kids that are using that track on a yearly basis. And I just want to throw a little light on the amount of kids that are using our dirt track with the facility in the condition that it is. So I went ahead and did some projections. Had to get a hold of some more people, get some more numbers. With our enrollment coming up, if I took that 32% average over the last 5 years to go to the next 5 years, these estimated enrollment numbers here, you're averaging, I don't know where my number went right there. Should be on there. So you would average 71 kids for the youth. I don't know, you got to do that math in your head. It just appeared off of my spreadsheet. I don't know why it's not on there. I just messed with that this morning. But the numbers come over here to, instead of that 105, we're up to 140 kids in the next 5 years averaging using that track. So just to kind of put it in perspective with the two bids that we have here today, that's the guy's information. If we went with phase one, all in Mac and McConnell, this was his bid, and we averaged 140 kids in the next 5 years. You're spending $1,400 a kid per year, which that averages out to $282 per kid for each year for 5 years. Which when you break it down, you see the big dollar amount, you break it down per kid. I mean, I spend $300 a year for my kid to have a better place to practice if I'm a parent myself. And I've got 4 of them that are going to be using it. Combination of local MAC and ice, like I said, if you added in 20,000 dirt work in here, if it was possible, if we could get a Prosser to do it or somebody local to do the dirt work. Without adding the 20,000, you're at $150 a year for 5 years for those kids to have a better place to compete and practice. And again, I think if we were able to do something and the rec center was able to have a big track meet where they're bringing in $5,000 to $6,000, they could probably work out something to help kick back to putting back in to help pay for the place. And I have getting grants is not the right time, I guess. Right now, a lot of them have been applied for, and deadlines for new ones are coming up. I'm learning options. City of Claflin for school improvement, being told if we added a walking trail, there's a possibility that the community could get some in that because it is benefiting the community. The Claflin Area Pride, the Roughneck Reinforcers, some non-profits. I've contacted One Oak in the process of figuring out what money is available there and how, when they're releasing it and things like that. I had people ask me about getting local donations, so whether I could sell a lane on the track, we could have a John Doe javelin runway. He wants to donate $5,000. It goes towards the javelin runway. You put a plaque up there at the runway, and that's that person's named facility. We don't have a named facility. If you had a larger donor, it could maybe possibly name the whole football field track area. Within the district of 112, at one time we had 4 high schools within this district, and all 4 communities have never spent and invested any money in a rubberized track. It's been a sport that has never been prioritized as somewhere that money needed to be spent, and with the growing numbers of the elementary school, the rec program, I feel like a new facility is needed and updating to what we have. It's not only something that is needed for the future, but our kids. And I do agree we need an auxiliary gym, and it's going to benefit the district, but we do have 4 gyms within these 3 communities made up of Pottery, Bushton, and Claflin that we're utilizing currently. Once that initial cost of installing a new track is done, there's always going to be that big cost from the start, but after that, the facility becomes more affordable to maintain like every other facility that we have. It's easier to maintain than to start from scratch. And I took way much more time than I thought I was going to, so I apologize. Does anybody have any questions for me? I just kind of want to raise some awareness and see what thoughts are about what we could or should be able to proceed with trying to do.
How many track meets per year do we host someplace else? And this is middle school and high school.
Pat hosts a middle school meet in Ellenwood, which he's got to go down there and set all that stuff up for them. And then we host a middle school meet here. The high school used to host a meet at Martin County, but Pat had to go down there, and they didn't have markings for 300 hurdles because it's a college track. They had 400 hurdles, so he would have to go down and mark the markings for the 300 hurdles. They didn't have restrooms next to the track. So, and again, like I said, we've hosted the league meets at Ellenwood, at Hoisington.
So when we host them there,
I've talked to 3 league schools that said, give me a date and we'll be there if we had a track meet.
But when we host them there, we do not make anything off of concession or anything.
I don't believe so. That'd be definitely more of a Pat question because Pat handles all that. The one here I don't know.
We used to do it Barton. We used to do it Barton.
The one in Barton we did, the basketball girls ran the concession stand in Barton out of their track shed. They hauled everything down there and did that.
Okay, when Wilson did this, they did Russell's and they.
And Wilson had to rent Russell, they had to pay Russell to use that track. And then,
Got the concession stand, they ran it.
yeah, Wilson ran the concession stand. But then again, and it was kind of funny because Tony's like, well, we have to move the track meet to the morning because Russell says they have to have practice. And we would show up for our meet and Russell's getting on a bus to leave for their track meet.
I don't really have a question, but more just a comment. I feel like everybody feels like there needs to be something done. The question is just the funds for it. Do you have any, are you asking the board for just their thoughts on, like, you looking at other funds that are out there?
I'm looking at that, and I mean, I know we've got, where we're growing in every aspect. I mean, the school, the elementary is growing, and we're running out of space. And I feel like this addition would also help more growth as far as more people coming also. I mean, we've had kids, that youth program, Ellenwood didn't have a youth program. We had up to 8 or 10 kids who were coming from Ellenwood. Ellsworth just got a youth program. They didn't have kids up there before they were coming down here. So we've got kids from other communities coming down and running on a dirt track to be a part of the track club because they didn't have something in their own place.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, yeah, you're not gonna get any argument from anybody that something needs done out there and improvements would be great, so I just.
Is it something that the Roughneck Reinforcers is working on? Not yet.
I don't think there was any.
They had got a
we
bid
didn't
on it.
have any numbers, specific numbers or anything like that.
Yeah, the guy that gave me this bid, I think, is the one that gave RJ that initial bid for the reinforcers to have kind of a ballpark figure. But that wasn't weighing in. I called him, I wanted to kind of meet with him and say, hey, you know, what have you done in the past? And when I sat down with him with kind of my drawings and schematics and moving stuff, he goes, well, you're more prepared than most people we meet with. They usually just kind of say, this is what we want to do track, and they do everything. So he said they like to work with local contractors and business workers. So, I mean, I think we could save money. I mean, they're not hauling dirt equipment out here if we can get somebody locally to do it.
The price that he gave the reinforcers, rough, was it a breakdown?
No.
Or it was, hey,
He
here's.
showed up, he looked at it and said,
Here you
here's the amount that I could just ballpark you, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my recommendation too would be to try to raise funds, find out about any specific grants or anything like that. I know we do have a few more things to talk about tonight too with the daycare and stuff that might impact your phase 2 expansion. But I think everything looks great. So we can get the money.
Thank you.
I do.
Thanks. Okay, item number 14, the high school science credits.
All right. Mrs. Chamber Barron came to me a couple weeks ago and asked if there had ever been a discussion about some of our high school science, some of our high school ag classes are science credits. And I don't know the answer to that as far as has that ever been presented to the board. So I am going to present an idea for allowing animal science and horticulture to count for high school graduation credits as a core science credit. So just to give you a little bit of background in that, the high school graduation requirements, for the minimum requirements from the state, for the 3 science credits, it reads 3 units of science, which shall include physical, biological, and earth and space science concepts, and which shall include at least 1 laboratory course. Okay, so my recommendation would be to allow or to require students to take either biology or physical science as one of their high school graduation requirements, and then allow them to take a horticulture class or a plant and soil science class or a animal science class as their other 2 credits to satisfy their graduation requirements as from the school. I do have her syllabi if you'd like to look at them. The way that CTE courses are designed are around competencies. So our other courses are designed around state standards. Teachers have to teach state standards. Those are usually just a few things. Like when I was teaching, there were 4 concepts in science that I had to cover. These are the competencies that have to be covered in just one of her CTE courses. I can tell you that what they cover in these courses surpasses the, it is like a focused or like a hyper-focused, I guess, piece of biology. So where Mr. Gonzalez teaches, a wide range of that, the animal science is going to hyper-focus on just the animal science piece. This would be really good for our students who are wanting to pursue degrees in those specific fields, to be able to take courses that are more aligned to their goals. I have no concerns that this is not an easier thing by any means. This is just another option for students to be able to take credits to satisfy their graduation requirements that is more aligned to what their goals are. Do you have any questions as to what that would look like? One other thing real quick, the way that Courtney has the pathways designed is all students have to take an agri-science class, which is an overview of everything. So animal science, plant and soil science, horticulture, welding, everything that she teaches, it's like an overview so that they can get a taste of all of it, and they have to take that before they can take any other course. So this, like I said, this is not by any means like an easier path for students because they have to do extra work to get there and be dedicated to it. I just think it would help some of our students that maybe are wanting to go that path.
So the board has the authority to give Ms. Murphy the right to use those credits as science credits for graduation if the board deems fit. This could help us in the CTE realm with some funding as well down the line too, because some of those classes fall into that realm as well. But it also opens up a kid's schedule. What I mean by that is maybe if things don't fit perfectly in their schedule with things, allowing this as a science credit that still fulfills that requirement, and the pieces there where it's still a tough class to fulfill that requirement, it could open up what they would like their schedule to be down the line. So.
I would also, while we were advising students as to their course makeup and their end result, I would also not recommend that they wouldn't take the physical science, the chemistry, if they're college bound, they need to take those courses as well. So these would still just be for the kids. Like, for example, we had a senior who is going into a career in animal science. If he would have been able to take this as a science credit, I think it would have been beneficial for him to be able to have that option.
Any further questions for Ms. Murphy? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those ag science classes to be counted towards graduation.
So moved.
Motion by Chad. Second by Allison. Any further questions, comments, discussion?
Do we need to actually list those classes, or just as what he has, just ag science classes is good enough?
I would be a little more specific.
I think we need to specifically say horticulture, animal science,
Okay.
and plant and soil science. We don't offer that currently, but if she would ever offer that.
So horticulture, animal science, and plant and soil science. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'm just gonna put that in there.
Okay. So there's a motion by Chad and a second by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 15, the flooring rotation.
Okay, so on our flooring rotation, we do have some bids from Miller's and from Wentz's that I want to go through. I want to talk more about the high school and middle school. The entryways that we're redoing this summer from taking the asbestos tile. Miller's gave us a quote. You're looking at about $6,497 for them to do a hard surface in those entryways once those are done. Wentz could not. He came out last week and was able to measure them, but he said it'd be at least 2 weeks from last week before he would have us a bid for those. So he's running a little bit behind on that one. But just so we know kind of what we're comparing for both places. At Wilson, we're talking about the preschool room, the first grade room, the third grade room, and the boys' restroom. The boys' restroom was added later because it's pretty bad. The vinyl's coming up off the floor and it's not replaceable, and it's a safety problem right now. So Wentz's came back and rebid that one separately from the rest of the bid. But you'll see those prices on there. And then at the elementary school in Holyrood, we're talking about a 6th grade room, the music room, the conference room, the Title I office, and then the counselor's room for their flooring rotation. This does move us a little bit further along in the flooring rotation than where we're currently at. But I think with some of the expenses we know we might have to add going into next year with the expansion of having some more classroom space at places, I think this is a good time to do that with where we're setting at in our capital outlay. So looking at the two, Miller's for Wilson was $12,082, and then Wentz's was $15,158. Central Plains Elementary School, Miller bid was $12,142.50. Wentz's had it at $11,690 for those classrooms at Central Plains Elementary School. So I know in the past it seems like, looking back to last year, we split those apart a little bit. So I don't know if the board's still interested in doing that, to split it between Wentz's. I think last year Miller's got the high school bids, and then Wentz's did the elementary schools at Wilson and the elementary schools at Holyrood. So.
With the bids as presented, I would entertain a motion to use Miller's of Claflin for Wilson Elementary and Central Plains High School, and Wentz Interior for Central Plains Elementary School.
Also move.
Motion by Josh, sorry.
Second.
Second by Allison. Any further questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 16, the water softener at Central Plains.
Okay, so yeah, our water softener line had a break in it. It was one of those little lines that hooked into the valve, and the front of it came loose. That water softener was really old in there, and it fried the line. It fried the computer at the top of it to the water softener. It does need to be replaced. I wouldn't classify it as a major emergency, but if we don't have that fixed, then we have the hard water coming through there, which is going to mess up the pipes and mess up the faucets and those sorts of things. So Studers came in for all-in price to replace comparable to what's in there now at $4,375. If the board would like to table that to get some other bids, we can do that as well. But it does need to be something that we get done this summer, if not immediately. That way we don't reap the benefits of what that could do to our lines.
Do we know how old that is over there anyways?
We looked into it, and I don't remember. I hate to tell you. I did ask that question, and it was old. Yeah. We asked Brent that. I remember I thought he said 2013.
So life expectancy is under 10 years on those usually, so.
2013 or 2015. That's what
I would entertain a motion to approve the bid from Steeder Contractors for a new water softener at Central Plains Elementary School as presented. Motion by Kayla, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 17, the Claflin Daycare.
Okay, so they did, when I say they, ABCC, Advancing Barton Child Care, did pick a contractor, Brentwood Builders. Chris Seeley works with them, and they're the company that did our air conditioning unit in the high school. So we did finally get a chance to talk to them. They came out this past week and visited with us a little bit. When we met at the last board meeting, we discussed maybe having to put some funds with that to get what we want it to be. And since that happened, we actually had something kind of turn out in our favor. So been talking with Miranda Carpenter at the Kansas State Commerce Commission, and she actually took the job over from Sarah that was there before when we did the tax credits a few years ago. So there were a few entities that filed for those tax credits that didn't end up using them once they were sold. So those tax credits got returned. There's still 3 building projects from that year that are still raising funds, and we're considered one of them. So filled out the paperwork, and I called her today to see where we were at on that, and they're sending us a check for $198,000 to help with that cost, in addition to the $252 we have right now. When I talked to her today, she said it's 100% done deal. Contract will be to us this week, and we'll have the check to add with that. So the conversation we had about having to add some of our capital outlay funds, I think that my recommendation is I think that's something that we're not really going to have to consider with this because of that fortunate conversation that we had with Miranda. So I wanted to make sure we know kind of where we're at with that. So whenever we met with Brentwood Builders, we told them about the placement of what has been talked about in the past with the daycare. When we met as a board, we visited about some different placements, and they brought up some different ideas as well. So they actually gave me the rotation today on a couple of options. They actually gave me 4 different options. I only included 2 of them in here. The other 2, one was connected to the auditorium that would have the play area in the little foyer where all the high school, middle school kids could look out the window and see the daycare kids out playing. After talking to our administrative staff some and talking to our maintenance staff, they did not think that was a good idea. And the other option they gave us was to try to put it over here on this side, north of the football field, and block that road off going that direction. And we did not feel like that was a good option. I did not include those pictures, but I have those hard copies if you guys would like to see them. But the two placements that I think we really need to visit about tonight, if we are going to move this from the board's, they didn't make a motion, they made
It was a consensus.
consensus to put it by the football field, the south of the football field.
There was no motion.
Yeah, there was no motion, but so the 2 options that are included on here, you'll see, are option 1, that include putting a one-way road. Option 2, yep, option 2, north of what would be the tennis court expansions. Did talk to Michael about that a little bit. And he thought if that road could go just a little farther to the north to allow a little more room, it would be very easy to put that in. When I talked to Chris Seeley today, he thought that would be an option. When I talked to our administrative staff today, and I also talked to our maintenance staff, their agreement was that option 2 would be the best placement. That road that goes back there to the north would be a one-way road. So they would go to the west of the tennis courts, take a right, drop their kids off in front of the daycare, and then also turn back around and come down 7th Street to come out. There are some pros and cons on there. Existing road would not be impacted. We would be adjacent to the tennis courts to be able to use that facility if we needed to. The playground would be in a non-intrusive area. There would be no code implications from the existing buildings with this. The fire hydrant that theirs could remain. The parking for childcare would be easy to address. Some cons would be lunch distribution would be a little more challenging, but not as challenging as it would be to put it down here by the football field. And the drop-offs would be on that same road on 7th Street. Because what I really like about this is in 5 years when we own this and we have the option, if it ever doesn't run as a daycare,
It's right there.
there's more space for us to use for classrooms. So really, you're trying to balance the road, because that's the main problem back there, the road, as opposed to having the option to have it for classroom space or whatever we need in the future. I would recommend us really taking a look at that and trying to balance that to get it to be moved back there in that area. Option number 3, you'll see on there as well, shows the new driveway. It would probably be a U-turn in there to come straight back out, which would cause a little more congestion to that side of it. I think that option would give us, I think it might be a little compact in there with everything else we have going on. With that tennis court expansion, if that moves forward or what that looks like. I do want to pass, I'm going to pass it this way. I didn't include option 3 and option 4, but they're right here. So I want to pass those around just so you guys can take a look at what option 3 and option,
Wait, no,
it would be option 1 and option 4 is what it would look like, 1 and 4. So, you know, no matter where you put it, you're going to have somebody upset at it. The one thing we need to make sure and that we do is we do our due diligence on making sure that it's where we want it and it can be used in the oncoming years if there's no daycare in there. And we all know from what we're dealing with right now, the main problem with daycare is trying to find workers to work it. So I would really recommend us looking at that first option that's on there just for what it's going to give us 3, 4, 5 years down the road and what it could help with. Whenever I talk to our administrative staff and our maintenance crew today too, they both highly recommended option 2 over putting it south of the football field, and that's what my recommendation would be as well. If we can fit the tennis courts in there and make it work with a one-way street, I would recommend on putting it back there for multiple reasons.
So why didn't they like, because I would think the lunch would be easier with option 4.
Yeah, so our main concern there was how that's going to be set up. And then also the road being right there, they were a little unsure on how far it would stick out in that road, or even that road would be accessible on that side of it. Because it would be right over here on this little roadway.
How would it, I guess I'm not seeing how it would.
I think that road goes right by it.
Because if that's just gonna be gravel.
It would. They were just worried about how this was gonna be right in here when that play set, because that play set's gotta be a certain size for this. Whether it would have to kick out a little bit further or whether it would have to go there, and then how it would look being so long and so, I guess, narrow is the way. He was just really worried about that road right in that area, so.
How much further back can you push for option 2?
I think the one thing that Chris said is he wants to stay out of the gully, because if we get in that gully, we're talking about a lot more dirt work, and then we're talking about running utilities further. But he said he thought, you know, it would be accessible to move it back 8 to 10 feet, which would provide a little more parking and also could provide to space those tennis courts out a little bit more on how it would look in there.
Well, and if we go further back between the road and the potential of addition of tennis courts, can we put parking there?
Well, that's what that black is, kind of parking, but I will tell you this.
No, parking for tennis courts.
No, well,
Because the black is on the north side.
it's not gonna be enough room though, even the way it is, right there. Because this is just a mirror image of what we have. And even if he added on 3 in a row, they would be a longer backcourt, and then this doesn't have any room in between courts either. And I know, and I'm not sure what they are, but there's regulations on how, with the grant money he's getting from USDA on what size the courts have to be. That's what, I like it back there. I just want.
Chris is on call, so if you'd like me to call him right now, I can call him and ask him how far he thinks he can push that back.
I don't know what any of those measurements.
Okay.
I mean, that would.
So he said 8 to 10 foot would be doable. If we get any further back than that 8 to 10 feet, and that's whenever I visited with Michael, he thought that if we could push that, that far back, that it would help with the distance between the two. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I like option 2.
Okay,
The next step would be if we give them option 2. When I talked to Sarah, Sarah said that you just need to tell us where you want it, and that's where we're gonna put it, basically. So it would be a little change to our agreement, just in the placement it would be. The next step that Chris's crew would take is they would come out and survey that site for anything that might be a hiccup or, on the way to give some feedback back on it, so.
Yeah, I think that if we can measure everything out and know that it can be in those locations, that's a good spot for it.
so if we go with option 2, do we have expense to improve that road to get to the new road between the tennis courts and the school? Or is that expense gonna be coming out of?
That's probably gonna be part of what's incorporated in the process for them to build all of it.
Okay.
Now, whenever I did talk to our maintenance staff, one thing, in the future, when we talked to Chris, he talked about some sort of crushed concrete with some sort of a padding down to try to keep it impacted a little bit more so it don't run out like the rock does on us.
Right.
I say we use that for a couple years and see how it's working. And if we have to come back at some point and talk about, making that road better, whether that's different rock or asphalt or what that looks like, then, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. He said they've had really good luck with the crushed concrete underlying. I'm not a road guy, that he was talking about that they used at some other sites.
So I mean, I just so that we're all kind of on the same page, I think that's a good option, but just like everything else, we want to make sure that we're not building ourselves into a hole, and that hopefully we can work out all these great plans that we have for the future. Do we need just a consensus?
We just need a
kind of-
consensus that everybody's on board with moving forward with option 2 rather than by the north of the football field. That way, when they do
It doesn't have much.
I don't think we're to the motion part yet. As long as we had everybody on board with that, then we can come back whenever they do the site and inspection and make sure that we're all on board with where the placement of that is moving forward. So
option 2 as presented.
as presented, yep. If everybody's on board with that as of right now. We have to have Chris an answer by tomorrow. That way they can get the site planning and inspection done on that side, so.
Did they say why they went with Brentwood instead of?
Yeah, they thought their bidding was a little bit more concise and not just an overall, this is the amount you're gonna spend. It had things broken down a little bit more. They've worked with Brentwood builders in the past too on some of theirs, so.
So I guess Bobby too, did you, when you were talking to Michael, did you show him those 2 options, like kind of how he said, like that third court, having it set back more with
Yeah.
that?
I showed him this option. The other option I didn't because I think if we push it, we can't push anything back on that other option.
Right.
All we have to have is enough room there for the road to get through. With that other option, I mean, there's no moving anything back. I mean, it's gonna have to be where it's gonna be, or that there won't be a through road there.
The playground has to be flat.
Right.
Slide that.
No, yeah, but yeah, if it could be a little bit more on that,
The slope.
Slope.
Because if that doesn't matter, but we could push it even further.
yeah.
I think what they're trying
Kind of
to
how
do is
you had said previously about just kind of curving that.
around to
road
the side
almost a little
maybe.
bit, Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, in that location, and just trying to work where we can get as much in there with the best options as possible.
I do want to speak up. At Wilson, we feel like this building, I know you can't turn it down, it's such a nice gift, but it's a death sentence for Wilson Elementary in 5 years. Because it could be a Claflin grade school and Hollywood have grade school, but Wilson wouldn't have it. It would close Wilson in 5 years. How do you feel about that? That's what we're afraid of. And I know it's such a great gift, but it's so scary for Wilson. And my patrons tell me this. What?
Have a daycare here?
No, the building in 5 years, it'll become part of this school district and it can be like classrooms for Claflin Elementary or Holyrood Elementary. It might close Wilson.
If it was anything, it would be for the junior, senior, and high school, or
Okay.
like 7th and 8th grade. That would not be big enough to house an elementary school at
Okay,
all.
but some classes. Like,
Some
and
classes.
it'll spill over from Holyrood. And we're just afraid it might close Wilson.
That would happen here.
Well, this is what my patrons are telling
But
me.
no, the grade school would come here. The grade school would go to Hollywood, nothing else.
Right, but Wilson would not have a attendance center because we're so small, we would get closed.
I don't think.
Do you think it would affect, do you think it would?
This building won't.
I don't think this building would have any
Okay.
effect on this specific building would not have an effect on like closing down other buildings. It wouldn't be that big to house. I mean, we're talking about like 2 classrooms out there, maybe 3 classrooms. That wouldn't be enough to house an elementary school there.
Okay, because I'm getting questions. I wondered what you thought, just so it doesn't hurt Wilson at all. In 5 years, we're talking about after daycare. If it's not daycare
I'm not
building.
gonna say in 5 years it won't hurt Wilson, but on the other side of it, like, I don't see how we would ever close a building to move things around to get them all to fit in this big 4,500 square foot daycare building.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the daycare should affect Wilson.
But I'm talking in 5 years after it's not daycare. Mhm.
Oh, it'll still
It
be
could
a
still be
daycare.
daycare.
They're hoping
It could
to
still be
It could
daycare.
be, but it might not be. My
Right.
district office we talked
Could
about. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't wanna put ourselves in a box on what it would be in 5 years.
Right.
We'll own it in 5 years. And then at that time, if the daycare's running great. If it's not, and we need to use 2 of the rooms for a spillover for 7th and 8th grade classes, that's what we have it. Right now, we don't have any grades below 7th grade here.
Okay.
So when we're gonna be talking about space here at the high school, middle school here pretty quick, so
Okay, so it's more spillover for junior high.
that's what I would foresee it as.
Okay.
So even at that, the way I take it too, in 5 years, that we can take it over, but if we don't want to take it over, we don't have to.
No.
That daycare facility can still be ran by somebody else besides us. It's just, the building would be owned by the school then.
And they would lease the building from us to run the daycare.
So if their daycare's still going and we're agree upon it, it could possibly still stay that way.
And that's why I said we don't want to box ourselves into a corner, because we can see what not having daycare employees is doing right now to us. I mean, I don't know in 5 years if we'll have enough daycare workers to keep that going. I would hope we would, but I can't say that we're going to or that they're going to. Talking to Sarah about the daycare workers that they deal with in Barton County, I mean, it's a revolving door every couple of weeks on their daycare workers as well. So it's not anything, new to our district. On what that's going to look like in 5 years. So.
Well, that's reassuring about junior high classes would be more likely to be in this building.
But just to be very clear and very straightforward, before 5 years is up, we're going to have to be talking about some additions to what we're going to do here at the middle school and high school to add some space as well. I mean, with the amount of kids that's coming up from the elementary school and talking about having to split the 6th grade class that we have coming into 7th grade. So, I mean, even with that building, we're going to have to talk about maybe adding a classroom or doing something here in the next few years for the amount of kids that's coming over here. And that's going to be before we own that building in 5 years. So just to be very clear on, we're already talking about moving classrooms next year and teachers having to move from one classroom to another. So.
But to stay on topic and on the agenda, that Claflin daycare, that's the consensus, go ahead and move forward with the site.
For option 2.
And then item number 18, end of the year meeting in June.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure this is on our schedule and we have an understanding when it is. Our end of the year board meeting is scheduled for Monday, it's not end of the year, but our June board meeting is scheduled for June 9th on Monday. Last year, we had our end of the year board meeting on the last Wednesday in June. If we hold true to that, we'll have to have our end of the year board meeting on Wednesday, June 25th at 7:30 a.m. We had it in the morning last time. So I just needed some feedback from you guys on if you wanted to stay with that Wednesday, June 25th, or if you wanted to move it to a different date.
What time?
We did it in the morning at 7:30 last year, Kayla.
Quite a few, I think, Zoom.
I'll be out of town and probably not able to Zoom, but that's okay.
Is that
We just do
close?
that for harvest, or,
Yeah.
you know, so we do it in the morning, get it done.
Is that June 25th? Is that close enough to?
It gives us the time that we need to still get things done after the meeting.
Because you make a motion to approve all remaining bills that are yet to be received or whatever, because there's gonna be some bills trickled in that we'll have to pay out of this year's budget. Right.
If that were, we can make whatever work on our end, guys. You just need to tell us what'll work best for you guys as a group, so.
Yeah, we usually look to the farmers on that one.
Yes. And if you wanna go earlier, I mean, I don't.
I wouldn't go early, I have to drive 30 minutes.
I would rather do
7:30 works fine.
Is everybody good with that?
So do
I'll be out of town, so I won't be available.
consensus?
Okay, yep.
7:30?
7:30, June 25th.
Thank you.
Eastern time
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. President, I move that the board go into an executive session pursuant to the Kansas Open Meeting Act to discuss non-elected personnel for the topic of resignations, supplemental positions, certified staff, and classified staff to protect the privacy of individuals to be discussed with Mr. Murphy present and return to open session in this room. Still 20?
Yeah.
8:20.
Okay, motion by Josh and second by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We're back into open session.
I move to approve the resignations of Macy and Maya Squires as Wilson Elementary School daycare director and assistant.
I'll second.
Motion by Allison, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to approve the resignation of Deanna Moran as the USD 112 bus driver.
Second.
Motion by Allison and second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I move to approve the resignation of Joan Klug as Central Plains High School math teacher.
Second.
Motion by Allison and second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to approve Stephanie Peterman as the junior high assistant volleyball coach for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Motion by Allison, just second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to approve Laura Schlesinger as the math teacher at Central Plains High School for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Motion by Allison, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to approve Morgan Hoffman as the preschool teacher at Central Plains Elementary School for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
Motion by Allison, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I move to approve the USD 112 certified list for the 2025-2026 school year as presented.
Second.
Motion by Allison and second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I move to approve the USD 112 classified list for the 2025-2026 school year as presented.
Second.
Motion by Allison and second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Our summer workers are also listed on there for maintenance and technology.
I move to approve the summer workers as presented.
Second.
Motion by Allison and second by Josh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Mr. President, I move that the board go in an executive session to discuss teacher negotiation for the purpose of noticing items for negotiations under the exception for employer-employee negotiations under KMOA, and that we return to open session in this room at 8:45.
Motion by Josh, second by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. We're back in open session. Item number 21. Yep, superintendent.
Okay, so a couple items on there. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on our conversations with Lee Birchfield from the Box Modular Place. And I uploaded the recent document that he just sent to our board minutes. Due to the fire code, the breezeway, if we include the breezeway, it cannot be totally enclosed. It could have a roof over it, but no sides. And they're estimating it's going to have to be about 25 feet away from the existing building. So the modular total that he has with all that included is a little over $1.2 million. We do have the concrete work in from Scott that came over in a little over 60,000, and we're still waiting on some numbers for plumbing, electrical, and dirt work. But we're looking in the range of, I would anticipate probably 1.5 total in cost for that. But, like I said, it's gonna, the part that really concerns me about that is just the safety issue of the outside of the building. It's not gonna be enclosed with the breezeway, and, how are the kids gonna get in the door? Is it gonna be card swiped? Are they gonna get in and out? Like, there's a lot of just safety issues that really
Did you say
concern me.
what the code issue was?
He didn't say. He said something about, the only thing he brought up was the fire marshal, or Kansas fire marshal is what he brought up. So specifically, I don't know.
So how much more would it be to put a sprinkler system in?
I think if we put a sprinkler system in and it's within a certain distance from the school, Tamara, I think that we would have to sprinkle the whole building. So once I get some more information on the plumbing, the electrical, turned some information over to Mark last week. And that was just last week. The city superintendent, so he's supposed to be getting me a little information on that and waiting on some more information from the dirt work from Abe on that side of it. So
So could you enclose one side of it and not?
The north side?
and put I don't know the answer to that.
What if it wasn't fully enclosed?
Exactly.
But screened off for most of it?
Like if you had,
You've seen them bus stops, they got
Screens or-
enclosure here, but then some are.
yeah, it's
on both sides.
open, yeah.
Let me ask him what other options we could have to try to get some more safety in there so that's enclosed and see what he says.
Cause I
Is
feel
that
like,
because it holds students? Because we got this going to the weight room and that's all enclosed. You know what I mean? That's,
Mhm.
but that's not a classroom. But
or if you had, just like an 18-inch gap along the
At the
bottom
bottom,
of it.
yeah,
It's not enclosed,
right.
but it would still protect from
You
the
might have to
elements.
put door exits. Or like a gate, you could flip open to exit if you had to, yeah. From a safety perspective, because you're gonna have locked doors still, but.
Let me ask him specifically options for that breezeway to try to do a little more enclosure on it and see what he says. Okay, so daycare, we're still looking for daycare workers, employees at Wilson and at Holyrood. At this time, we're just running the one room this summer at Holyrood. We're in hopes that we can find somebody else to shift things over to have our one worker to be allowed to help with some of the executive director work on that side of it. At this time, we're likely going to have to shut down the Wilson daycare over the summer. During this time, we're going to continue to try to advertise. The radio information was a good thought. To try to push some things out radio-wise for those job opportunities as well.
Do they still have like an area in the newspaper that has like job openings?
well, we could run an ad in the newspaper, right? We could put one in the Ellsworth Independent Reporter, and that would probably be the closest to that location. I was thinking I would listen to the news station now, 107.9, which covers us and the Russell area, and they always have Russell School District information on there. They have Sylvan Grove information on there, so we could, I was gonna call that station particularly and find out, because that covers that area.
Right.
And I was gonna find out the cost.
And then piggybacking off that, did get the Patterson grant finished this past week due to where we're at with the daycares at this point. I'm just really unsure if we're gonna be fortunate enough to receive that grant. I still have hopes that we might, but just where we're at right now, we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. We do have a property insurance renewal meeting on Wednesday, May 21st. And I did want to give you guys some updates about where we're at with the library in Wilson. So still dealing with the leaks from the roof. Roofing company's been out like 6 times since I've been here trying to fix those leaks. I feel like, and the gentleman that was there today, the front of that building that sticks out of the library is sagging, causing some water to come up underneath the windows on one side. We've had the library cordoned off and locked up for the past week. We had the mold inspector come out today. He did find some mold along the walls. The bookshelves are going to have to go out. They're going to have to shut down part of that library. They're going to have to go through the books, see if it's in the walls, on 3 of the walls. I did want to read the guy's name's Lance. His email said the remediation will include removal of affected materials that could include drywall, glue down carpet, ceiling tiles, shelves that are affected. There will be a separate charge for detaching the remaining shelf, which we would anticipate there could be molding on the back of those shelves. Whenever they took them off, they're not sure. They said there could be. They did give us an estimate to include having dumpsters rented, the books gone through, everything removed, sheetrock removed if it has to be. They'll haul all the debris away. Again, estimate, not a final bill. We are putting an air sanitizing machine in there just to have it. In no time, when we visited with this gentleman today, he said there's no emergency for anybody in the building as long as it's locked off and there's no airflow in there and nobody's in there, we're good. He did recommend putting an air purifier in there just to do it. So we are going to do that tomorrow. Their bid they gave us for all the stuff that needs to happen is $48,102. That does not count anything going back in there. That just counts them getting down to where they need to get down to get things out of there.
Is that no matter what kind of, like, I'm sorry, this may sound really bad, but my basic knowledge, is that any kind of mold or only if it's black mold or, because I know there's different.
Yeah, their worry is, so they're testing the mold now that's there, and we should have that back. And they're also doing an air quality test in there as well, just so we have the documentation in the library for the air quality test. They're just worried about what could be on the back of those bookshelves because we don't know how long it's been doing that. I mean, I know it's been doing that ever since I've been here. We've been trying to get at least the roof side of it fixed.
We're gonna ask the companies too.
I did talk to Caleb Good, that's our KICS insurance adjuster. Our deductible for something like this is $25,000 through the KICS program, which he said this would fall under that. He does have me the claim form. I did ask him, is there a situation where we would be better off paying for this ourselves so our property insurance didn't skyrocket? And he said in this, it would probably be a low ticket claim if it didn't get over a certain amount, so it really wouldn't affect that very much. But I mean, we're going to have to get some more quotes on this as well from the insurance adjuster side to make sure that we're not being, that we're maintaining compatibility between, at least 3 different inspectors. So if we needed to move the library, they're going to have to go through all the books on those and make sure any books that have water damage or could have mold, they throw them away. It's just going to be quite intrusive. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that and what, we're seeing. I'm going to have this gentleman, just go around once he's done with the air quality test and stuff and just look at things and just make sure that he don't see anything else that could be, a problem that I don't expect or we don't expect being there, so.
You mean like in a different room?
In a different room, or if there's been other leaks or things like that, just to, we don't ever want anybody getting sick or anything from water damage or mold. So that fixes that part of it, but it doesn't fix the roof, and it doesn't fix if the front of that library needs to be lifted up to make it level. Those are all going to be other expenses that, the roof might be covered under this claim, but I don't think the foundation repair, if it's going to need repaired, is going to fall underneath that claim. So we got a lot of work there to make sure it's done right. That way, we're not putting anything back until the problem's fixed. So we've got a lot of work to do on that side of it to make sure that it's safe there in the library. So we even talked at the start of next year, if we don't have things up and ready, if there's still open walls, moving the library to a different room for an amount of time until we can make sure that the problem's fixed. I don't want to go back and put walls and carpet in there if the problem's not fixed. That doesn't make any sense. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on where we are with that. So
the guy that you had come down, have we had him?
yeah, so I got his name from Tim. Tim said Lemunion. Lemunion, they're out of Salina.
Okay.
So I'm sure we're going to have to reach out to at least 2 other places to get, insurance adjuster information from them as well. So, yeah. And I have that if you guys wonder. This is what you gave me today. This is the estimate that he's given us from that company, if you want to take a look at that. We'll add that to our list of things we got to get done. So.
Item number 22, board member reports.
I don't have a report, but I have a comment. Okay, you know how we toured Wilson and Cleveland? Did we ever tour the building?
We have not.
Okay.
We need to probably do that at the next meeting if we can. So.
Well, we will, try to get to that.
Yeah, they'll have the asbestos deal at the next one.
I mean, I was thinking, okay, I thought I was here every meeting and I just missed it, but. Okay.
September, we could put it on, yeah, maybe after the asbestos and stuff. It's still, I don't, I don't know.
And I'd like to mention our walkthrough ceremony. Mrs. Moore mentioned earlier, we had 10 Sylvan Lucas graduates walk through their cap and gowns, 1 from Lincoln High School and 1 from Ellsworth High School. They are Wilson students, but they graduated from those schools. And so we had a nice little ceremony for them, for the parents and staff and students to see them again.
I think you guys do it here too, don't you?
We do.
It's such a great school. I think it would be nice to see the high school go to Wilson grade school too.
Incorporate that in maybe next year.
Yes.
I think we had talked about that at one time, and it was just kind of.
I would like to see them come more together. I mean, the high school, like if they do ag in the classroom, I'd like to see them maybe include Wilson too. Things like that, just trying to bring Wilson in a little bit instead of pushing them out.
Michael said that he reached out to USTA for the funding for the tennis courts, and actually they called him back about 5 minutes after he talked to him and said, you guys are actually in a high need area, so they might actually get more funding for the tennis courts than what he had planned on. So
That's awesome.
that was pleasant surprise. Any other open agenda items? Okay, items for next month's agenda.
So I'll give you guys a report on the KICS meeting. When I say KICS, that's our property insurance as well. We'll have some workman's comp numbers for our insurance as well. And then we'll have handbooks and personnel too.
I looked last year, I think we talked about student fees. So that might be on the agenda.
Okay.
Still don't know what I'm looking at.
$48,000.
Anything else? Hearing nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Motion by Allison, second by Josh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Where is this company out of?
So
Do they have to stay in a hotel?